Hello gamers, it is I, Aiden, the man who isn't particularly great at RBY SU, but is still making a video about RBY SU regardless because this meta's pretty fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm like very pleasantly surprised by how much I'm enjoying the new RBY SU. Now, my history of RBY SU isn't that extensive. The really old meta with like Wheezing, I wasn't a super big fan of. It wasn't really for me. And I believe Wheezing Rose, I don't think I ever played that meta. And then we got a whole bunch of other, let me turn the music down a little bit. This jazz playlist is fucking fantastic, by the way. Totally give it a recommendation. But yeah, What was I going on about? I was too intantalized by the Bocchi the Rock jazz. Amazing anime too, by the way. I'd highly recommend watching it. But that has nothing to do with the video, like at all. Oh man. I'm gonna. By the way, just a quick note. I'm gonna refrain from like speaking with more energy than I am right now, and the reason why is because I'm sick. I've been fighting off this cold for like a week now, and yeah, it has been complete fucking misery. I've hated this shit. I fucking get in my car after taking a short shift for a coworker, and then I'm like, wait, why is my throat so sore? And then 2 days later, I had to call out for work. I'm like, god damn it, fuck. I haven't been able to catch a break this week, man. Anyway, again, that also has nothing to do with this video. Who am I, BK fucking C? Yeah, so, back on topic. So so this tier is really fun. And I found it to be one of the more fun SU metas, which I've really been surprised by. Of course, my personal favorite SU meta is DPP. I've made a ton of videos about DPP SU, and it's something that I enjoy doing quite a lot. ADV is also very fun. I enjoy ADV SU a lot. It's probably my second favorite SU. Black and White SU, I'm not really vibing with at the moment. Maybe I will later. I don't know. I'd say this is probably like my third favorite SU right now, which obviously that third favorite fluctuates a lot all the time. But there's a lot to like about this tier. If there's the first thing to get out of the way is that Ivysaur is the best Pokemon in the meta, like no question. Like Ivysaur is ridiculously good. Because sleep is just ridiculously good. You put one Pokemon to sleep, and then it's basically dead for the rest of the game. There's not really that much that the sleeping Pokemon is really able to do to counteract the Ivysaur. So yeah, Ivysaur is very strong. Like slower Pokemon are gonna get slept. Faster Pokemon are still gonna get slept because Ivysaur's ideally gonna burn its sleep as soon as it can, because even though every team should have a sort of like sleep sack, usually the best sleep sacks are like bulkier Pokemon like Lickitung, Arbok, and Golbat. Otherwise, there's really not very many great sleep sacks in this meta, which is definitely unfortunate. So just overwhelming it with fast offense is a good option. If you have a lot of slower Pokemon on your team, using a dedicated sleep slack can be good too. And then even after the sleep, Ivysaur is still pretty good. I believe it gets very close to OHKOing Wartortle, which is huge with Razor Leaf, and then it can set up Swords Dances with Body Slam as well, which can actually be a pretty potent threat if you're able to get the rest of the opponent's team paralyzed with Pokemon like Clefairy and then knockoff not Body Slam users as well, which it's not really something you see Ivysaurs doing that often. Ivysaur is mostly just a Pokemon who clicks Sleep Powder, but the fact that it can do that definitely adds some extra depth to its game. In terms of like its alternative of Weepinbell is really not that great. It's slower than Ivysaur, so it's not going to get the sleep off as effectively, and that alone makes it mostly outclassed. Stacking grasses isn't particularly good because you're not really using Ivysaur to be a grass, you're using it to be a sleep. You're using it as a sleep abuser, because sleep in Gen 1 is broken. Which means that Weepinbell generally isn't that great. I'd say it's I'd say it's usable. Like it's not quite as bad as a Pokemon in D, but I think it's like a C2 Pokemon. You're not really gonna realistically be seeing Weepinbell like at all in this meta. Then in my opinion, the second best. Oh, yeah, and then in terms of the other Sleep Mons, Gloom has absolutely zero niche. And then I'm trying to think of like what Venonat can realistically do. Like what matchups does Venonat have that Ivysaur doesn't? I'm trying to look through, and I can't really think of any on the top of my head. Venonat's looking like a D rank to me. I'm actually gonna take a quick look through other players' VRs real quick. So forgive me if this gives BKC going to the bathroom vibes. Yeah, so looking, I'm just taking a quick tour through others VRs. Oh man, Seishun Complex is so fucking good, man. It's the only player I've seen who actually is ranked Venonat is Miss. Miss is probably one of the best RBY SU players. She's actually made a really good thread as well for RBY SU discussion. Let me look at that, so let me plop that up so I can promote it here. Because I think it's a good thing to. Because a huge inspiration for why I'm making this is because of how much fun this forum post was to read. So yeah, if any of you guys have the time to read through this, then absolutely do so, because Miss is a better player than me, and the takes are going to be generally better overall. But in my opinion, I don't really know what Venonat does that Ivysaur can't do, so that's why I put Venonat there. Yeah, so then next up is, in my opinion, the second best Pokemon, and since I'm going to be ordering these through name instead of actual viability, Charmeleon, I think, is the second best Pokemon in the metagame. Charmeleon is extremely good, very strong lead, although lead Ivysaur is also just stupid, so I think lead Ivysaur is probably the best lead. Just get your sleep over with, right? If you have a more dedicated, bulkier sleep sack, though, then Charmeleon can feel like a very rewarding lead a lot of the time. And then, it's really solid in, mid-game situations as well, because it just does so much for a team, right? So yeah, I think that, I think that Charmeleon is the second best. There are there's, the mirror for Charmeleon is very fun as well, due to slash, counter, and substitute kind of being like a rock, paper, scissors situation. Typically, I prefer not playing that rock, paper, scissors. I like to go for a safer switch, like a water type, or even like a rock type. But that's more so just like more so like a playstyle thing for me. I don't like taking risks, as little as possible, right? But yeah, the fact that it has that interaction is definitely fun though. It adds a lot of depth to your game in situations like that. So the next up to think about is Ponyta. Ponyta is Ponyta is a very good Pokemon as well, but Ponyta is mostly used as a partner to Charmeleon as opposed to a replacement for Charmeleon, because Charmeleon has a better move pool. Because the reason why Ponyta isn't as good as Charmeleon is that Charmeleon beats Ponyta because of counter, and Ponyta doesn't have counter. Ponyta's move pool is in general not as good as Charmeleon. When it comes to normal stab, Charmeleon has slash, which does more damage than whatever Ponyta can do because of the guaranteed crit. Granted, Ponyta is faster, which means that it's gonna be very useful in late game situations where you're generally up against faster Pokemon, and being able to outspeed those faster Pokemon, while also being a fire type, which is very strong in the meta where Ivysaur is so dominant, is very good. In my opinion, Ponyta is definitely up there as one of the best Pokemon, despite the fact that it in theory should be having so much competition with Charmeleon. I think it's either A1 or A2. I'll change my placement just kind of based on vibes later on. And then, of course, the third best Pokemon is the water of the Fire, Water, Grass core, Wartortle. Wartortle is just a very solid glue, very bulky defensively. You have two options set-wise. You either go for like a all-out attack set with Reflect, or you go for like a 2-attack Reflect Rest set. The Rest set works mostly in the mirror, while Seismic Toss is generally a lot stronger in general, dealing with Pokemon who would otherwise resist both of the attacks. It's also just a very safe click, right? And then of course Rest can get taken advantage of quite easily because you're out of commission for 2 turns. And even though Wartortle is quite bulky, it's not bulky enough to really take advantage of those turns too well. In terms of other waters, the best one is easily Horsea. Horsea is for sure A1. It's a very, very strong Pokemon. It's an agility sweeper, and in my opinion, the main thing that sets it apart from Wartortle is Smokescreen, which is one of the most annoying aspects of this tier imaginable. It's inherently inconsistent, right? But in RBY, because like Smokescreen, the opponent's generally gonna want to switch out, right? But at the same time, Horsea is very hard to switch into because it's so strong, which means that the interactions of Smokescreen end up being really deadly as a result. I don't think it's a particularly unhealthy interaction because Horsea is definitely... It doesn't feel that bulky, but I actually want to compare the stats just to make sure that I'm not talking out of my ass. No, Horsea has comparable bulk. Oh no, it has half the HP. So it's not quite as bulky as Wartortle, but it's not like it's not bulky either. This thing has weirdly good stats for SU, like what the hell? Yeah, so I think Wartortle's better because it's better like glue, right? It fits onto teams a lot easier than Horsea does. Though I could definitely see an argument for not having Wartortle here, because I could definitely see some more like aggressive teams outright favoring Horsea over Wartortle. But I feel like Wartortle fits a lot. It's just generally going to be fitting more often, and like 9 times out of 10, if you're using Horsea, having Wartortle as a partner is usually advantageous. If you want a partner for Wartortle, then it's usually Horsea, and then there are some alternate options like the rock types and other water types. Oh yeah, so Horsea speed ties with Ivysaur, but then Goldeen has a niche for being able to actually outspeed Ivysaur, which can come in clutch, especially for a water type. I'm not convinced that it's really that strong of a niche. It's not like it's that bad though. Like its stats aren't that bad for SU. They're below average, but it's not like it's an active liability by any means. It's either like B2 or C1. I'm leaning C1 right now. And then Seal just feels entirely outclassed by Wartortle, if I'm being completely honest. Same with Vulpix being outclassed by Charmeleon and Ponyta. Like, I'm gonna just check to make sure that no other players have differing opinions on me about like Seal and Vulpix and whatnot. And it doesn't look like it. Okay, I'm not crazy. Alright, so now I'm just trying to think about where I should go next. Oh yeah, right, I forgot that Psyduck counts as a water. Psyduck and Shelter both count as waters as well. You know what, fuck it, I'm actually gonna look at Mrs. Current VL. Because I definitely see the vision with Shelter since it has Explosion. Explosion inherently tends to give things niches even if they're very small. I'm thinking of being generous and giving this like a C2. And then Psyduck is a Pokemon that feels like it doesn't really have a place in this meta. When I've made my first like VR, and this is still kind of what I'm doing right now is still basically a first impressions, because I'm still fairly new. I'm still fairly new to the meta. But from actually playing games, I can't really see a world in which you would choose to use Psyduck over the other waters. Like if we look at its stats real quick, yeah, it's slower as an Ivysaur. It's not as immediately powerful as Horsey or bulky as Wartortle. It has Amnesia, but having to set up Amnesia in order to do anything is kind of a momentum sink, especially in RBY, which is very heavily focused on positioning. Requiring a turn of setup to be anything of use in RBY is not useful, especially when there are other Pokemon that have more overall useful roles than you. So I think Psyduck is just not good. But yeah, so I want to talk about the rock types now, because the rock types are kind of like the what you'd alternate switch-ins for the fire types. Of course, the water types are the main switch-ins. However, being able to preserve your waters is, well, mainly your Wartortle. Being able to preserve your Wartortle for other matchups is very big. Part of why, and that's the big reason why Horsey is so often paired with Wartortle, despite theoretically stacking weaknesses, right? And as a result, it means that the rock types can also act as potential options for your team. I think that the rock types have their place, because even though they basically only exist to stifle fire types, and they're worse at it than Horsey is, because A, they're worse Pokemon overall because they're slow and only switch into Charmeleon, and B, they are much more vulnerable to burns than the water types are, because these are physical attackers while the water types are special attackers, because old gens didn't have the physical special split yet. So Geodude and Rhyhorn are considerably more niche than Horsey, or honestly even Seeking, not Seeking, Goldeen. I'm gonna Rise Goldeen then. I think that Rhyhorn is C1. Geodude, I'm actually gonna do a Copium ranking. I'm gonna put it in B2. My reasoning for this is just Explosion's really good. So even when you're burned, being able to just get an Explosion off for some momentum is something, right? It's more than what Rhyhorn can do, who's just kind of a sitting duck when it gets burned. Another alternate use that these rock types have is that being ground type means that they hardwall Voltorb, which is definitely a useful role to have. And then outside of hardwall, also I just want to make sure that Shelter actually has Explosion this gen. I could be wrong. Okay, it does. Yeah. So then another thing that okay, so yeah, I was talking about, I'm just trying to regain my footing, right? Like, oh, what was I talking about again? So yeah, I was talking about electric types. You can also use these to pivot into a Pikachu Thunderbolt. You don't check Pikachu unless it's paralyzed because Pikachu has Surf, which means that Marowak is a lot better for this matchup, unfortunately, but yeah, it's something. In terms of Kabuto, I'm less high on Kabuto, honestly, than I am on these, because you don't have the electric matchup. You're stacking waters, which means you're worse into electrics. It's not useless. It has a niche, right? But I think it's worse than Rhyhorn and Geodude, so I'm going to be ranking it accordingly. So then, I'm actually gonna wait until later to talk about the rest of the grounds. Even though Marowak has so much in common with Rhyhorn and Geodude, because in order to really sell what they do, I want to first talk about the poison types. Arbok is the most hyped up Pokemon to have just been dropped into this metagame, because Arbok actually got banned from ZU. But that was because of partial trapping being broken. So ZU banned partial trapping, which means that, transitively speaking, SU has also now banned partial trapping, which is good because Arbok would have been banned otherwise. Without partial trapping, Arbok is alright. It's because like it's decently bulky, it's decently fast. But in terms of damage, it feels like it's kind of lacking because it doesn't really have stab. Poison types in general don't really have stab in Gen 1, which is part of why poison types are so bad. And yeah, so you're generally going to be... So you're going to be doing decent damage, but you're mostly using Arbok as a sleep sack. It has other good roles too, like it's pretty good into Charmeleon as trying to like check it in a pinch as opposed to like a more dedicated answer, but it's something. Again, I think this is one of the better things to sleep sack to Ivysaur. It also resists Razor Leaf, which means that it can switch into that as well. Glare is very helpful because paralysis is obviously stupid. It's just fucking dumb. And then having Hyper Beam is pretty good. I haven't had very many times using Arbok where Hyper Beam has felt impactful like at all, but it's something. So yeah, I feel like I would personally put Arbok in B1. It has its place, especially in like the role of like mid-speed sleep sack. But like it doesn't feel as impactful as a Pokemon that put in like A rank. When you see an Arbok, you're not really scared of it. It's just there to do its job and do its job well. And then I actually feel pretty much the same way about Golbat. I think Golbat is very comparable to Arbok. Golbat is used less often, but has an Earthquake immunity, which is very helpful against specifically Marowak, if I'm being honest, but is also quite good into... It's also quite good into the rocks as well. And then it has Mega Drain as well, which means that it's, again, much better into the rocks than Arbok is. I don't say that Arbok is bad into the rocks, but the rocks generally beat it. Mega Drain means that... I mean, Mega Drain's not really helping with the Marowak matchup, honestly. So yeah, otherwise it's Arbok, but it trades in a couple new weaknesses to Ice and Ice and what was it? Ice and Rock for a ground immunity, which is a trade-off that I feel like means that Arbok is more consistently useful. You're gonna see it on more teams. But Golbat is a perfectly viable alternative that you're going to be seeing basically the same amount. You're not going to be seeing it basically the same amount. What the fuck am I talking about? You're going to be seeing it enough to where I think they're relatively comparable rank-wise. I can see an argument for RBY A2 because you're seeing it more. I might rank Golbat down. It'll depend on what the rest of this list ends up looking like. And then, of course, in terms of other poisons, yeah, okay, Mist does agree with me. Yeah, Nidorina and Nidorino are just like, no niche. They're bad. They're outclassed. There's no reason to use them. So now I'm trying to think about, like, what's the next thing I want to talk about? I guess the next thing I should talk about is probably the electric types. But before I talk about the electric types, I want to talk about what, in my opinion, is the best, like, fast Pokemon outside of Ponyta, and it's Meowth. If you've heard about, like, the 7U meta, right? Meowth kind of has the same sort of, like, impact over it as in a similar impact in SU where it does in 7U. Of course, SU is decently power crept, is quite a bit power crept over 7U. But Meowth is a Pokemon that you use late game, and if you use it well late game, it can really help you win. Kind of the only real issue with Meowth is that it doesn't quite do enough damage to neutral targets. Like if you have a full health Charmeleon, decently healthy Wartortle, a decently healthy Arbok, decently healthy Golbat, decently healthy Lickitung, just anything that's like bulky and decently healthy, then Meowth is really gonna struggle to break it, which sucks, especially because Meowth is definitely frail. So yeah, it's usable. Well, not really that it's usable. It's quite good. Yeah, if you want to clean up a game and don't want to stack weaknesses with Ponyta, then Meowth is, in my opinion, your best option. So then, now is a good time to talk about the electric types, in my opinion. Pikachu is the main one because Pikachu low-key kind of makes it so that the rock types are nowhere near as good as they would be otherwise. Because it has Surf, which is just crazy good coverage. Where did I put Pikachu in my last ranking? In fact, what's the general consensus with Pikachu? Yeah, so the consensus seems to be like A2 seems to be the consensus opinion. And yeah, I'd say that's agreeable. Because Pikachu is a lot frailer than Meowth. Meowth has generally more coverage options. Actually, when I think about it though, I really do feel like they're pretty much equal. Like if you want a fast cleaner, then Meowth, Pikachu, and Ponyta are your trilogy. These are the best Pokemon to clean up the late game with. And then Voltorb, in my opinion, is not great. It's barely in the tier. And because a lot of people have very high opinions on Voltorb is probably the most split Pokemon, right? I feel like half of the people I've seen think it's really good. The other half seem to think that it's kind of on the verge of falling off. And it all depends on how you view the rock types, because these just completely wall Voltorb. So even though Voltorb is the fastest Pokemon in the tier, I just feel like Pikachu is the much safer Pokemon to run, even if it means you're going to have to contend to speed tying Meowth and Ponyta. And even then, it's not like Voltorb is that much... Actually, Voltorb has Thunder Wave, so it paralyzes Meowth and Ponyta. Actually, that's another reason why Pikachu is A1 instead of A2, and that's because of Thunder Wave. Having Thunder Wave over Meowth and Ponyta is huge. And then, another defensive use for Meowth is that it's the only one of the guys in the trilogy that's not Earthquake Week, which is pretty big. Like, in my opinion, on Voltorb is generally not the highest, because it just gets stonewalled by any ground type. I guess now is a good time to talk about ground types. But first, I gotta talk about how Magnemite is useless. Don't use Magnemite. Like, it's an electric type that's slow and can't hit ground types, just like, no. And then, I'll talk about some of the other fast normal types a little bit later, but I really want to get to the ground types. So yeah, Marowak, in my opinion, is very good. Like, it's not just a sleep sack like Arbok or Golbat is. This is, like, a genuinely great wall breaker. In my opinion, this is A2. Like, like, as soon as Ivysaur has slept one of your Pokemon, Marowak is basically just free to spam Earthquakes for the rest of the game. And the fact that this isn't quad weak to water or grass makes it a lot more difficult for these faster breakers to actually deal with Marowak. And Marowak can trade with these Pokemon extremely effectively. So yeah, Marowak is, in my opinion, quite good and surprisingly underrated in this meta. I think that Marowak is underrated, at least. Like, I haven't really seen Marowak get the praise that I feel like it really deserves in this meta. Like, I'm trying to look at... Yeah, I just don't think the opinions of this Pokemon are as high as they should be. And then, the other viable ground type is Diglett. Diglett is kind of like one of those, like, it barely has a niche. It outspeeds all the base 90s, but it's also, like, has even worse defensive utility. And not only that, but it's not really especially strong either. Or at least it doesn't feel as strong as the other ones. Meowth feels strong because of crit slash. So that makes up for its pretty bad attacking stats. Ponyta actually is strong, which, yeah, that's huge. Pikachu is mostly carried by the coverage. Yeah, comparable stats to Meowth. And then, meanwhile, Diglett actually has... Okay, Diglett's offensive stats are just fine. It's not really missing out on anything. So I think the main issue for Diglett then is just the lack of defensive utility. This thing just gets... Like, Pikachu and Meowth can live a Surf. Diglett can't live a Surf, nor does it have the stats that Ponyta has to make up for that fact. So I feel like Diglett's definitely one of the more niche Pokemon in this meta. It's B2, it has a place. Potentially B1 if I want to feel generous. Again, I'm going to look at some other people's opinions on this. That's what I'm saying, though, generally seems to be the consensus. Yeah, actually, there are people who are ranking it even lower than me, which I don't think is quite fair to it. So then, next up is Sandshrew, and in my opinion, Sandshrew has no niche here. It is completely outclassed by Marowak. So I guess before I talk about the fightings, I'll talk about the other two fast normals, because I haven't gotten to those yet. Rattata and Doduo. Rattata's another one where, like, oh, okay. Sorry for me checking other people's VRs and VLs, by the way. I just want to make sure that when I'm making something like this, that I'm doing the subject matter enough justice to not look like a complete nut job, right? I want to look like I kind of know what I'm talking about instead of like I don't know what I'm talking about, right? But yeah, so yeah, Rat doesn't really have a niche here. It's just doesn't do enough damage, nor is it fast for this meta either. It's very much outclassed by Meowth. I'm sorry, I almost forgot my alphabet for a second. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so Doduo is another Pokemon to consider. Drill Peck for hitting Ivysaur a little bit harder. Hey, not bad. It is, I believe, slower than the other fast breakers, though. Yeah, it is, like, it's slower than Charmeleon and Arbok, even. Like, that's... Yeah, it's slower than both of them. So, like, Doduo is definitely not in the greatest meta for it to succeed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to think of a reason why... Oh, actually, I know the reason. So, like, Pikachu and Ponyta, right? They're Earthquake weak. Meanwhile, Meowth only is neutral to it. Doduo has actual defensive utility because it can switch into Earthquake. So, like, that gives Doduo something that is, like, genuinely a logical reason for why you'd want to run it. And then Drill Peck's pretty good. You can... I was about to say you could try funky stuff with Mirror Move, but it doesn't get that. I mean, Mirror Move's kind of a filler move slot. It very rarely comes in handy. Yeah, so like it's definitely niche. It's not in the B ranks in my opinion. I would put it like, I think it's enough to be C1. Like, it's not that much worse than Meowth. Like, it kind of feels like it from like a theory extracting standpoint, but in actual games, I think it's a Pokemon that'll perform better than what I have at C2. Like, even compared to like Weepinbell, right? Yeah, so then now we have the rest of the ones to talk about. I don't know where I want to go from here. I think probably the most logical place to start is Lickitung. Lickitung is another Pokemon that I put into the Sleep Sack category that Arbok and Golbat are in, and I think because of that, it's kind of in the same rank. Like, you use it as a Sleep Sack, and that's the purpose that you're getting out of it. Like, it's bulkier than Arbok and Golbat, but it also doesn't do nearly as much damage as either of them. So, like, it's like a fairly good, it's like a trade-off, right? And then I may as well talk about the last normal type here, which is Clefairy. Clefairy is very much like a, I haven't seen any Clefairy in the games that I've played. So this is the first time I'm gonna read Mrs. reasoning verbatim. Again, goated forum post. Make sure to go and make sure to find and read this, because I'm probably not gonna put it in the description because I'm lazy like that. Clefairy differentiates. Let me put on my narration voice. Clefairy differentiates itself from Lickitung with immediate paralysis, which can be really annoying for a lot of fast and squishy Pokemon like Charmeleon and Voltorb that rely on their speed to be threatening. Clefairy can get really obnoxious when Hacks goes in its way between full paralysis, psychic special drops, something that it can let it beat Arbok and hinder revenge killers, and potential blizzard freezes. There's even Body Slam, Counter, and Seismic Toss in its move pool to boot. Clefairy is just unfortunately hindered by its own bad speed, just above average bulk, and lower offensive stats. So yeah, Clefairy is very much a utility mon, right? You're mostly using it to spam paralysis, but it has other options too. Counter seems particularly interesting. Gen 1 counter is pretty good, despite how weird it acts compared to other counters in future gens. And like Psychic and Blizzard make for good coverage as well. Like, Clefairy is definitely more on the niche end. Like, I'm leaning B2 for now. I could... That's mainly because it's just not very common, right? I'll see where other people have put it with their opinions. Just to be extensive, right? I'm sorry I'm doing this a lot for this video, by the way. Again, I just don't want this to be like a train wreck. So, yeah, most people seem to agree that it's like B2, so sure, we'll roll with that. So then, next up are fighting types, the Swords Dance users, and then Dratini. I guess Dratini would make the most sense to talk about next. Dratini is budget horsey. It has a better defensive typing than Horsey does as an agility user, but it also doesn't have stab, which means that it's weaker than Horsey. In my opinion, Dratini kind of struggles in this meta. But Dratini also has Thunder Wave, which means that it has support. It has an option to support, which is pretty big. And not only does it not have a stat, but it's also not very strong either. That's rough. I think it's C1. Like, it has a very tangible niche. Very tangible and realistic niche. I just think that it's mostly outclassed, if I'm being honest. Like, it doesn't have, like, more of, like, a legit niche compared to, like, the B2 Pokemon. The B2 Pokemon are mostly, like, alternatives to other things, that are flawed but have their place. Clefairy isn't really that, so I might rise Clefairy based on that description, but I also don't think Clefairy is as good as the Pokemon that I have in B1 either, so... I guess I'll talk about the fighting types then. So Hitmonlee is the best fighting type for sure. It's alright, it's pretty good. The fighting types are actually well, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan at least are surprisingly very frail. Like, these are terrible defensive stats. Fucking Horsey is bulkier than this. Yeah, Horsey is bulkier than this, or at least equivalent bulk, which is crazy. Wartortle is for sure bulkier than this. It's bad. In terms of actually being strong, though, like, it's strong. No Hyper Beam, though. Like, that's sad. And that's the reason why Primeape is ZU, well, this is not. Sucks, too, because the matchups against Arbok and Golbat are very bad. And most teams are going to have one of them. Because of how valuable it is to have some sort of, like, viable sleep stack on your team. Yeah, which means, granted, what are some things that they can do? Like, Body Slam, try to fish for a para, I guess. High Jump Kick is very good for when the poison gets eliminated. But even then, it's not as fast as, like, the other, like, breaker... It feels so weird ranking Hitmonlee lower than, like, Meowth and Pikachu, but it really is more flawed than them. I'd say it's about equivalent in viability to the poisons. It feels a little worse, if I'm being honest. I'm considering rising the sleep set. Something about the tier list format doesn't quite feel right to me. I'm thinking about just changing this into a flat A rank. Yeah, it feels better. Let me readjust the colors because that's bothering me now. There we go. And then Machoke is in a bit of a bizarre spot. That's, I haven't seen that much Machoke. I'm gonna look through his moveset, see, like... Oh, that speed is pitiful. Its bulk is, like, workable, at least. His actual coverage It's basically just... Honestly, though, it feels outclassed by Arbok, if I'm being honest. It's stronger than Arbok is, but the fighting type is a lot worse defensively than the poison type is, and Arbok is also faster. So Machoke just feels like Diet Arbok in this meta. And frankly, the fighting stab is not doing that much for it. Like, because Submission is honestly a bad move. The only thing Submission is going to be useful for is for, like, Geodude or Rhyhorn. But Arbok also has Earthquake. So yeah, this is outclassed by Arbok for the most part. It has different defensive values though. Like, it is not weak to Earthquake like Arbok is, which is pretty big. But again, it's not really big enough for me to put it in the B2. It just feels a little outclassed to me. So yeah, I put Machoke in C1. And then Hitmonchan will be next. Hitmonchan gets agility, so that's what its niche is. I'm so glad I read that forum post, otherwise I would not have known what the fuck Hitmonchan even does. This was actually ranked in SU proper before the drops happened too. So apparently agility Hitmonchan was like an actually pretty decent set in an old meta, but yeah, that time kind of went past it. Yeah, like, if you want an agility sweeper, then, like, Horsey's just better. Again, this suffers the same issue of being walled by poisons. Horsey, on the other hand, is only really walled by Wartortle. But Wartortle tends to get worn down pretty quickly. Because Wartortle has to defend a lot against a lot anyway. I'm leaning, like, if I want, you know, actually I'm going to rank Hitmonchan in the same tier as Machoke, because Hitmonchan and Machoke are attempting to do pretty different things. I just don't feel justified ranking Hitmonchan lower because of that. Yes, the next up are the Swords Dancers. So, in the meta where the rock types are definitely not as good, the rock types are pretty used right now, so Farfetch'd hasn't had a ton of time to shine. But Farfetch'd will eventually become a good bit better, in my opinion. So, because, like, even though Farfetch'd can't hit rocks, it still has... Like, unlike Beedrill, it doesn't require setup to be useful, because Slash does the same amount as, like, a +2 Body Slam would. Which means that you can rely on that before you go for, like, their Swords Dance later in the game. And then it doesn't have Hyper Beam, that's unfortunate. But yeah, it's kind of like... Yeah, so it's like Double Dance, Body Slam Slash is the move set from what I can tell. I could be wrong, though. So, like, its stats aren't great, but they're workable for a sweeper. Like, it has, I feel like it's barely in the tier. It'll, and if we were talking about, like, how the meta's played, like, right now, I'd put it in C1, but this is me accounting for, like, what the meta will look like in the future. Miss made this exact same prediction in her forum post, so a lot of that opinion's dictated off that as well. And so then that means that Beedrill is the last thing to rank. Beedrill unfortunately doesn't OHKO Ivysaur. Nothing OHKOs Ivysaur. And again, and that's why I feel like the slower Pokemon in this meta are still quite usable compared to, like, the faster Pokemon. Because, like, you're not ever taking out Ivysaur in one go. It's gonna get the sleep powder off whether you like it or not. But yeah, that's one thing that Beedrill does have over Farfetch'd, and it's that it's faster, which gives it more opportunities against... I'm gonna look at the speed tiers. What does it get more opportunities against? Goldeen, and that is it. Okay. Never mind, the speed is not as important as I thought it was. It has Mega Drain to hit the rocks better too, but the rocks aren't like an especially important matchup. I don't quite think it's C2. The rocks are like just relevant enough to where I think this can get away with C1. So yeah, that is my RBY SU first impressions viability ranking. If you want to play some RBY SU, then we have a custom server, Star Raptor Showdown, for playing SU metagames. If you want to interact with the community, we have an SU Discord. I say we, but I don't own or moderate the server, so it's But yeah, the SU community is absolutely wonderful, full of great people, very kind and welcoming place. So, and then of course, all of us are always willing to let someone new. It can definitely be a little intimidating for a newer player to get in, because they're gonna have to fight people who are more familiar with the metas. But I do think that I do love it when someone gets into a tier and actually stays invested in it. So, hey, maybe that could be you. And if it's because of this video, then I actually would feel very happy about that. That would make my day. So yeah, I'll see you guys later.